How you doing, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. NRL Fantasy Analysis here. We're going to be going through a bunch of your questions again, just more around like which player do I pick, and if you're comparing two different trades, right, and you're going, okay, maybe I'm going to go DCE and Braden Trindle, so I'm downgrading to get some cash available to go up to DCE, or something else would be like I want to pick Adam Dewey and Kalen Ponga. It's like, is it worth it to go those two, or is it worth it to go the other two? Most important part is doing the DC and Trindle one gets us a couple of halves, right? Do you then lack cover in other positions, for example? And the other question is on that, do you get to a point where these guys, do you think they're going to average more together if you're going to play both of them, or maybe Trindle isn't a player for you, and DC really just bolsters your entire squad? Whereas the other one, they're two guys that probably are in the top sort of 5 or 6 in their position. Does bringing them in improve your overall score, or are you just bringing in another guy or two, which means you have a fairly strong 18, but no real standouts? Whereas DC is that kind of that difference maker. That's probably the question that you need to decide for yourself. And if it is a couple of trades where you're like, okay, I'm going to be playing both of them, just give yourself an idea of what you think they're going to average for the rest of the season. So if it's DCE, maybe like, okay, I think he can average 68 or 70. Trindle can average 45 for the rest of the season. And then compare that with Dewey and Ponga. Are they going to be like a 55-55 each? And if you think that's going to be worth it, then pick it that way. But we'll just do a quick run through of all the positions and some of the top guys you like to pick. I'll just give them a little bit of a ranking for you there. So if we start with the hooking position, we have Benny Hunt in my team, who's a really solid one. Other than that, I wouldn't be going too high up the totem pole. I've only got Watson there, who is a solid option, but I'll have him down a little bit lower. And most people, if you have him, you're just holding. I wouldn't be trading him in at this point. If you're looking at the other top guys that I'd be trying to go for, I'd be going for Reed first, just I think he's got the most consistency. He's obviously averaging the highest. I then would probably go for Brandon Smith, as he gives you cover in the mid position as well. And then I think Cook's another solid option, but he's going to be up and down in his scoring. And a lot of people are getting frustrated with him and his scoring, and are like, oh, they were tempted to trade him out this last week, and he does really well, and now becomes an option again. Of course, that's how it works, and that's why Jordan Rapana is becoming such a big option this week, also. All right, so in our mid position, for anyone that you maybe don't have, I'd be going for Papali'i, Crichton, Haas, top 3 combo for sure. We lose Murray for this week, which is a little bit annoying, but he'd then be my number 4 selection, and then you have guys like Taumalolo following that. Okay, so just have that in mind, guys. The rest of the guys are kind of you've lost a couple to suspension, that are a couple of guys that are out the rest of the way. I'd then be going for someone like Victor Radley, who's going to be a really solid option at a cheaper price if you need him. So that'll be the 4 to 5 options there in that middle position there. If you move to the edge, and it's clear top of the rung is Dave Fafita. If you don't have him, then get him ASAP. Then you've got guys like Madison here, like Harrower and Ira. They're kind of your next cabs off the rank, because we don't have Tohu Harris anymore, which is frustrating. So I'd be going for, if you're looking between CHN, Madison, and also Frizzell, I'd be going Frizzell first, and then be going for Maddo, then CHN after that. Just remember that the up and down nature of those two players at the moment, where Frizzell's been really, really consistent for the entire season. So they're the kind of guys I'd be looking at there. No one really else in the edge position that I'm really excited about going forward. But you should be able to make up, sort of you got 5 spots to fill. I think you should have at least 8 of sort of the mids and the edges to be able to fill all those positions for you there. If you're looking in the halves, this is going to be the question. Are you going to at least have 1 to 2 of these, Cleary, DCE, Hughes combo by the end of the season, or you're rolling with none? You're rolling with 2. I think if you got 2+, I think you're going to be dominating the rest of the pack, because these guys are really clearly outdoing their position. Whereas you got some of the other guys, majority of us has Fafita. You've got one of the good hookers at least, and a few of the good mids that everyone sort of has, the Papali'is, the Crichtons and stuff. Whereas this one here, I think this is where you can really outdo yourself and get out in front of the pack. So it's in that exact order: Cleary, DCE, Hughes. Obviously, Cleary's out at the moment, so where DCE becomes really important, but he's the second highest price player in the game. So keep that in mind there. Moses will be good when he comes back, but I wouldn't be looking to target him. Then you've got guys like Munster, I think, who's going to be really great, averaging 57.7, had a breather last week, so he's going to come back with a lot of gusto and ready to dominate the league. And then you've got a couple of guys like Dewey, who I'd probably select in the wing fullbacks, just because there's so many strong halves. I'd make sure you try and get the top guys before you go for a Dewey, who is averaging 53.3, and that includes a lot of his time in the centre. So if you actually look at it, his average is much higher in the sixth position, with a bunch of really high scores there. So that's that there. Gamble's obviously all right if you're owning him, you're holding him and still being able to play him, for example. Hopefully Fogs comes back this week for my squad anyway. So that's that there. And we move to the centres, and someone that is obviously out this week in Jack Bird is clearly on the top of my list, with someone like Ramian and also guys like Joey Manu. They're the real strong ones. If you're looking for someone a little bit cheaper, then Rapana's come up as a really good option. 46.7 is his average for the entire season. It does include his 110 or whatever he got on the weekend in that one. So I can understand why people are going for Rapana. I'd probably be looking for Gagai as a slightly better option, who's that dual position centre and wing fullback as well. I'd be looking to hold off on someone like Burton or Graham. Staggs would be another half decent option, but I think you're going to get this exact average from him, that 44, 45 for the rest of the season. So if we're looking at guys I'd rank on top, I'd be going Ramian as your most consistent. Averillo's in there and he's doing okay, but again, most people have him. It's more just like, who would you trade in out of this group? I think Bird's really strong. If he can maintain his position in the 11 or 12, I think he's going to average close to 50 for the rest of the season and be super consistent. And then you've got guys like Rapana, if you want to be a little bit more out there in your selection process, take a little bit more risk in a team. But remember, right now the Raiders are playing so much better than they were. So maybe it isn't an outlandish risk to pick Rapana if he's going to be playing in the 1 jersey. And then Gagai will be fairly consistent as well, but he gives you cover in the wing fullback. So keep that in mind with those kind of guys. There's a fair few options in the center position at this stage if you need it, or if there happens to be an injury. But if there is, we'll go through that in a little bit more detail as of next time. So in terms of my team now, in the wing fullbacks, you've got guys like Nicho Hynes, but I wouldn't be looking to target him at this stage. Tommy Trbojevic, Turbo, is the most important player in this list, and everyone must have him. Following that, I think Tedesco is probably your second most important player, with To'o being out now. I think he's clearly your second best choice. And then you got guys like Walsh, who's been doing really well. But just remember, the Warriors are going to be really bad now. You can just see that they struggled a little bit on the weekend. There was a little bit not that they gave up, but just that gusto. They didn't have that oomph that you need to. Obviously, against the Rabbitohs, it can be pretty difficult. It's a really good team, but I don't know if that's going to affect Walsh too much. He just didn't run the ball that much. I suppose they didn't really have the ball a lot either, so it's hard for him to get his hands on the ball. Obviously, things will get a little bit easier over the next bunch of weeks. They do play Tigers this week, so I'm expecting a pretty big score from Walsh. He'll have to take over the attack a lot. So he's going to be number 3 there. And then you've got guys like Ponga and Dewey, who I think are all really, really good options. Ponga's coming off a 41 last week, comes up against Canberra this week, and the Knights aren't playing that well. So he's going to have to put them on his back if he wants to score really well. He's just really cheap now, and for someone that's averaged over 60, last year, he's 200k down. I think he has a great opportunity to do really well. You'll see Dewey will be a little bit more consistent in this position. At a little bit of a cheaper rate, you get Latrell at an average of 51.2, who you get at a slight discount. Hasn't played a lot of games this year, but when he has, he scored really well. And obviously at the start of the year, he had a really dominating sort of first few rounds when a lot of people started with him. So he's also someone at 550. If you're looking for someone that's slightly cheaper as a keeper, then Latrell's your man. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm sure and I hope that a lot of you got something out of this one, and that helps with your decision making as to do I go Ponga or Dewey, or do I do whatever you think you need to do in your squad. I suppose that's all I got to say. We'll go through my preview of the week in tomorrow's video, but also the trades that my team and the people squad are going to make. So guys, if you're part of that Discord, jump in there and get into the people squad, and we'll work out who we're going to trade out for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you in the next one, team. See you later.